1 p.m. And Chris, do we have our flag? There we go. If you will all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance as soon as our flag comes up. I pledge the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I think the first agenda item is our board fall retreat under board business. So it sounded like we had a couple of dates that we were looking at in October, and it seemed like the majority of our folks were available on the 19th. So if there are no objections to the date, I think we would like to look at the 19th as being our board retreat date. Are there any? And I know Director Ward was okay with that date as well. Did anyone else have any? What time? Okay, and we can discuss the time. I think that in the past we had done 5:30 to 6-ish. We've done, I think, both actually. So if there's a preference for folks, do you prefer like a 6? It usually went till about 9. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Superintendent Goff, it was like 6 to 9.
Yeah, we could do 5:30 to 8:30 if people would prefer.
Okay. So is there a preference on time, 5:30 to 8:30 or 6 to 9?
Good, 5:30 to 8:30.
Okay. So one vote for 5:30. Director Aganaga, do you have a preference? 5:30. Okay. And Director Thompson?
5:30.
Okay. Sounds like majority rules here. So we will go with 5:30 to 8:30. And it sounds like Chris will put that together for us and we'll start on a potential agenda that we can talk about over the next couple meetings that we have. Okay. And we also have board policy committee reps. So I'm trying to bounce from one screen to the other here.
So I can speak to this item. We have, as you know, we have a policy committee that is about to get started to work with OSBA to update all of our board policies. And we would like to have 2 board members participate on that committee. We do have community members and staff who will be engaging with that committee as well. It's a commitment of time. So I'd suggest, there you go. Yeah.
Well,
so
I see 2 hands. I see Director Eastman and Director Thompson. I don't think they have a question. I'm just going to say,
I
think is that accurate? Volunteering?
I wanted to jump in before Pat volunteered me.
Too slow. You're way too slow, Michael.
Okay. And I know that Director Ward was also good with that, and we had talked about it before. So it sounds like you have Director Eastman and Director Thompson both willing to do that for the policy committee reps.
Great.
And I'm assuming they will hear more from you when those get started. Excellent. And then we did hold an executive session tonight. And so we are looking to take a motion from that meeting, which I believe was shared with all of the directors via email from Superintendent Goff. So if it was not already in our packet.
Yes, I did share it via email after executive session. looking for confirmation that an email was received.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
So I will entertain a motion. I'm not sure, Director Thompson, were you making a motion?
No, I would like to move to receive the complaint filed against the individual board director and to direct the superintendent to take additional action as discussed in executive session.
Okay. Oops. And I think I've lost mine in front of me here. So we have a motion to receive a complaint as we did in executive session and to forward to Superintendent Goff as appropriate. All right. So Director Eastman,
Aye.
Director Thompson,
Aye.
and Director Aganaga.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. And Director Ward is not participating, so that motion has passed. Thank you all. And we're on to our superintendent updates, which I understand. Oh, okay. I see a hand that Superintendent Goff will go ahead and start. And I believe Assistant Superintendent Harlan will pick up where she leaves off.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Butzner and board members. If I can direct you to the superintendent's report that is in your packet, I'll use that as talking points, but of course we have updates since the time that this was submitted last week. And we start with the COVID-19 metric update. In your board packet, you'll see an update that was through last Monday, giving us an indicator of concern for Linn County continuing to have the metrics of cases per 100,000 climb. Last week they climbed to 26 per 100,000. When that number reaches 30, that's a number where that is prohibitive of us opening school, in addition to if we were to have a 5% test positivity rate. Last week it was 4.7% test positivity. Most actually every week except for now, we have had those results just prior to board meetings, usually around 4 o'clock on Monday afternoons, because the week runs Sunday to Sunday. The data for the state of Oregon was shared on the OHA site, but the county related data has not yet been shared. But I would like to let you know that in looking at the different data sites, we were able to see that approximately 52 cases were identified in Linn County over the course of the last week, which would equal about 41.1 cases per 100,000. So well above that 30 mark that we have been concerned about. Even if some of those 52 are not included this week and show up as next week's numbers, it is unlikely that this last week will have been under 30. And we are still waiting for the positivity rate on Linn County. The Benton County numbers are looking much better this week, and we shall see if that continues. I think the Benton County metrics, there were 18 cases from August 9th to August 15th. And 0 cases yesterday and today. And in Linn County, there were 52 cases during the same time period and 10 cases yesterday and today. So we're seeing a pretty stark difference between the two counties in the last week. Of course, continues to be a concern to us and an opportunity for us to remind everybody to please wear masks, please socially distance, please use proper hand sanitization and cleaning practices. So we should get that updated information tomorrow, and we will include that with the superintendent's update that we send out to our families and to our staff.
Superintendent Goff, does that then start our time frame different at that? How is it 3 weeks or whatever we have to go without being above that number again?
Right, exactly. So it refreshes us at 3 weeks now from this week, would be the earliest that we could return. And
Right.
so we will see how things progress. We were able to have a staff live chat last week. We had over 250 staff members on the 5th participate. That was fantastic. We are having a lot of beginning of the year meetings and professional learnings with our administrative teams, which have been, it's been reinvigorating just to see everybody, even though we're only seeing them virtually. It's been pretty fantastic. We have been conducting online registration, and we have, as of today, we had about 8,350 students who have registered for classes, which is great. And we still need about 800 more students to be registering for classes. So we are working the phones, trying to make sure that students who have been with us in the past get their registration forms filled out. If you know someone who hasn't yet registered, they can still do that online. It's still open for them to do so, and we encourage them to do that. We have our next, we had our reopening parent forums on the 13th, and we had 3 meetings back to back, an elementary, a middle, and a high school forum. Those went really well, with special kudos to Lisa and her team for really being able to answer all of the barrage of questions that came forward. And special shout out to Rachel Smith, our district nurse, who was able to share our protocols, which is extremely helpful. We do have some updates in the arena of childcare, and I know that Chair Butzner will speak to this a little bit with the work with Linn County. I'd just like to point out that Katie Alabak has been doing a fantastic job of serving on 2 task forces and coordinating folks in an independent grassroots effort to try and organize enough childcare slots or more childcare slots. We did hear from Kim Ledane from the City of Albany that that unfortunately the city has had to make the difficult decision to delay the opening of Maple Lawn, and that just really was a gut-wrenching decision for them. So they're hoping to resume in early 2021. We are working on staff assignments and staffing. Those will be done a little bit differently because we are, of course, needing to look at assigning staff not only to what would typically be the in-person model, which is starting out this year as the hybrid model, which is actually starting out this year as all virtual, and staffing the K-12 interactive model from home, and staffing AOL with much higher enrollment numbers, paying attention to the needs of our staff members and our students who may have medical issues, and making sure that all of that is well coordinated. So I want to thank Director Randy Larry for the work he and his team have been doing. They are neck deep in numbers and people, and trying to make sure that where we set staff is a place where they can be successful and will be best serving students. And we will finish that. Our hope to finish that is by this Friday. We have announced when our Chromebook distribution will take place for students in grades 2 through 12. And that will be August 24th through the 27th for elementary and middle schools, and the 31st through September 3rd for the high school. We have a back order of Chrome tablets for K-1 students, and we are really worried about when those will arrive. They are ordered, but apparently there has been a national backlog. Ships turned around at the shore when they arrived in the United States from other countries, and that has produced quite quite a difficulty for school districts across the country, and one that we are going to figure out a solution to. I will say that our technology crews have been working overtime, just trying to make sure that they get everything up and ready for our kids. And I appreciate all the energy that they have put into that work in order to get our Chromebooks ready for kids. It is possible that some of our K-1 students may start with Chromebooks this year and then transition over to the Chrome tablets. We have established a different supply list, school supply list for our elementary schools. So if people have been using the shopping lists that are at Fred Meyer or other large stores, because of the remote learning, we have different needs for purchasing school supplies. And so all of the elementary schools have updated those and sent them out to all of their families as an update. The last thing I will share before I hand it over to Assistant Superintendent Harlan is that, and Assistant Superintendent Harlan will talk about the blueprints that we've submitted and our plans for comprehensive distance learning. But obviously we are in a very odd start of the school year. And one of the things that is a norm that we've engaged in is collecting school fees at the beginning of the year through our registration process. Our fees are a part of that. We have decided to actually place a pause on all fees related to registration for two reasons. One, many of those fees aren't directly applicable at this moment in time because our students aren't at the school site. But two, even for those that are applicable, our pushing pause on that may help some of our families make ends meet a little bit better during this really financially trying times. So if parents have been charged fees, they will be refunded fees by their schools. Director Eastman, did you have a question?
I do. Does the delay be on the part of the city have any effect on the contract we have with partnership in Maple Lawn?
No. The partnership agreement, we have been really working closely with the city. We understand what limitations they have in their ability to open the site. It's the same limitations we have in our ability to open our schools. And so there are no negative outcomes as a result of that decision. And for an update on comprehensive distance learning, I'm actually going to send that over to Assistant Superintendent Harlan. And while she's preparing, I would just like to say, if you looked through the packet of what the state was asking us for around this work, you are well aware of how much time and effort and focus and professionalism Assistant Superintendent Harlan and her team have had to put in to do a bang up job with our plan. And I'm so proud of the plan that they've created in partnership with our operations departments, who obviously contributed a great deal to this as well. And I just want to commend her and give her an opportunity to share a little bit about what you guys will see in your blueprints. There are a couple of examples for you in there. Each school has their own, but we didn't send you all of those. Seemed like a lot of paper.
Thank you, Chair Butzner, members of the board. Just kind of a few updates. One, the fact that we are starting in distance learning kind of district-wide compelled us to then, as a district, submit our comprehensive distance learning plan to ODE and to the state to begin the school year. So components of that are required are our communicable disease plan, and there are 17 specific health protocols that go along with that plan. Nurse Rachel Smith has been just critical in that, as well as plans for comprehensive distance learning. You know, why did you choose that model? Well, because that's what the data told us. When would we switch out of it? Gave them the date, and then essentially ensuring that all of the requirements for comprehensive distance learning are met and that students still have access to and will have access to grade level content standards and a rigorous curriculum. In addition to that, each school also has their own blueprint that has to be completed and submitted as well before any in-person instruction or any in-person happens. And that could include things like small groups when we're able to have small groups of students come, specialized groupings, or our hybrid in-person. And so all of the school blueprints, the comprehensive distance learning plan, the communicable disease plan, and the safety protocols can all be found not only on our website, but also on the ODE website, so that as all of those actually across the state are submitted, you could go to the ODE website and look at any schools. And so right now we have, of course, our comprehensive distance learning plan submitted. We will submit our blueprints for our hybrid in-person first for our high schools. And then we'll do it for our middle and elementary schools. Those, of course, have to be done before we have anyone come in person, but we'll actually submit those long before. And then we'll update them as guidance changes or as guidance gets updated as well. I would want you all to know that those plans have to be submitted not only to ODE and OHA, but also both county health departments, Benton County and Lynn County, as well as our tribal partners. And so those are submitted and we receive feedback on those to incorporate those into our plans. And so you will find, I think in your board packet, just a sample of one of the elementary ones, so you can kind of get the gist for what it looks like and what it asks, but it's everything from some of the safety protocols in place to traffic patterns in terms of movement of students to food service, sanitation, cleaning, cohort size, all kinds of things available for you for your reading pleasure. Each one is quite substantial in the number of pages. So we thought 21 of them in your board packet would make for a rather large board packet. And you can search and look for any of them online. And of course, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer now or later.
I would like to point out what I forgot to mention. Everything in green in the directions was given to us last Tuesday. So the application itself changed last Tuesday, and all of the new information and reference points that are in green was also new last Tuesday. And Assistant Superintendent Harlan's team still, met the deadline and had everything good to go. But it was definitely a heart attack inducing moment for many, many people on the superintendent's call when we saw the changes.
So are there any other director questions or comments at this point? I'm seeing no's. It is a very well put together document for sure. I appreciate not having to see 21 of them. However, the one that you have shared is very thorough, and I know if you had to do that many of them, it is taking a lot of work. And so I appreciate our team.
Really, I would tell you our building principals are amazing and have been working in teams and together and trying to figure out, what this looks like. Because many of the things are similar just in terms of the standard protocols for how we'll do things. But a lot of it is very building specific based on the number of entrances and exits that you have and the traffic pattern for students. And there are a lot of just kind of idiosyncrasies about grade levels and buildings. And so our administrators, not just in this last week, but really for weeks and weeks now, have been working just incredibly, incredibly hard, our directors as well. And so I will tell you that this is kind of, this is just one product that is a result of just the enormous dedication that we have for our directors and principals on behalf of our kids. And so they're really tremendous, and they're working about as hard as I could ask a human to work, I think, at this point.
And there is a lot of green text in there. So there were, significant changes, very recent. So thank you to you and all of our folks involved in all this work. very, very important and very helpful. So, all right.
I am going to actually step back a moment and just ask Director Allen to comment on Maple Lawn, because I think he has different information than what I shared with Director Eastman.
Oh, well, we received an update last Friday from the city with the delay. I think we had assumed that with the delay, there would have been a decrease in cost, but ultimately there were savings, some savings in supplies and materials. But because of the decrease in revenue that they are anticipating with a reduced 5-month calendar, that the actual cost for the district will increase by $21,000. So we're anticipating that subsidy to be, I think it's $155,000. Do you have that in front of you, Superintendent? I believe it's $155,000 now. It's $21,000 more than it was before. Again, there were some cost savings, but whatever cost savings there were, it was more than offset by the reduction in tuition that they would be receiving.
Thank you, Director Allen.
So I think, I don't believe we had any additional questions, so we can move on to the next topic if.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're at graduation, and that will be Assistant Superintendent Harlan as well.
Okay, so I believe in your packet you have kind of the graduation plan actually for our 3 high schools, 2 comprehensive and AOS. We at the beginning, if you'll jump in your time machine with me, back in May, I believe, when we got word that we wouldn't be able to hold in-person graduation in the traditional way, in lieu of canceling it, we postponed it in hopes that the summer would bring, heat and sunlight and better outcomes for the virus. And so we kind of took a gamble on postponement. And while we won't be able to have a traditional graduation kind of in the same way that we have before, we are excited to have graduation nevertheless to celebrate our graduates and their accomplishments at our 3 high schools. So next week, we will have graduation ceremonies. All 3 will be at the Fairgrounds Expo Center. They will be just consecutive nights. So we will have one kind of set up. We'll use that kind of 3 times in one tear down. And it will be a modified drive-through, drive-in movie theater graduation with groups. And so again, it will not be what we are typically used to, but we are excited to be able to celebrate our graduates. We have been, of course, working with Rachel Smith on all of this safety and health protocols that we have in place in terms of sanitization and just making sure that there is little to no contact or touch. So you'll see some things that are different. We as district staff and board members are used to being able to hand out diplomas and shake hands. There won't be a shaking of hands, but a celebration nevertheless. So I was a little nervous as the summer kept progressing and the case numbers kept growing that we would be in a position where we wouldn't be able to do something in person. And I'm just so glad that given the requirements that we can still do something really safely and that students have an opportunity to be recognized because it's an important milestone in life that I would hate for them to miss. So I thank you in advance for, I know we have 2 board members representing the district on each of the nights, one for South Albany High School, or excuse me, 2 for South Albany, 2 for West Albany, and 1 for AOS. So I thank you in advance for volunteering for that. It is one of my favorite duties as assistant superintendent for sure. And so I'm glad that we'll still be able to participate in that. Again, you have plans in your board packet that are a little more specific if you have questions in terms of your role, but we will have very few chairs on stage. They will all be 6 feet apart. We will be wearing masks. The handing out of diplomas will happen kind of on a table. So students essentially will come up and take their own diploma. and they will come out in groups, the students will, and then return back to their cars so that we don't have a congregation of students over a certain amount. Questions?
And I believe I saw that there is a practice on the Monday evening, but that is just for the graduates themselves. Is that accurate? Okay.
And the practice is several times, right? So essentially you're having practice, I think it's 4 times for one of school, because you have to have small groups of students to keep it under a certain amount.
Okay.
Director Eastman.
I'm assuming that the directors that are going to participate in each of the 3, we need to show up early. Will we come in the south entrance, or will we be allowed in the north entrance?
You will receive invites for the ceremony and specific info about where to be and when via email. So you'll get all the details. And Chris has guaranteed me you will get that.
Thank you again for participating. I know it will make for a busy week next week, but again, it's one of the best, I think, events that we get to do. So, and I think graduation was the last item on the superintendent's update, unless there's something more, Superintendent Goff.
And again, on behalf of the board, thank you for putting that together, because I agree it is one of those very important life milestones. And I think it's important we do our best to try to provide a fun event for them. And maybe this will be the one to remember, because
I think
it
so.
will be unique.
And I would say all the credit for the planning, the details. I know there's a lot of logistics. Partnering with people goes to really Principal Orsborn, who did a lot of the work, planning, organizing, contacting folks to really make this possible for all of our high schoolers. So I really deeply appreciate her work and organization, and just passion around making sure that we can have an event that's safe for students and safe for staff and safe for parents to celebrate them. So kudos go to her for sure.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, we are on to board reports and board liaison reports. I can start really quickly. I was just going to mention the fact that I was involved in a task force that was put together by our county commissioners, and they have some funding, grant funding that they are looking to utilize to offset some enrichment programs for students, and they will be offering up an application for those grant funds. And there's more detailed information available through the district office. So if anybody is interested in learning more about that grant and the application, they can reach out to Katie Alaback and get more information. But I appreciate the fact that, and I think we all do appreciate the fact that our county is looking for ways to assist, as are many, many, many of our community members. And it's going to be a very good thing to add for families to be able to look at getting our kids active, participating with other kids in a safe environment and a healthy environment, as well as being around their mentor adults that they're used to being around. And so I think it'll be a very good thing for us to partner in. And there's many organizations partnering in this task force at this point. Either myself or Director Ward will be participating in the grant approval process for those applications, which will happen the end of August. So that is one area that we have been involved in, participating in, and it was a good group and some good discussions for how to help out through this pandemic and all the issues we're dealing with for kids. So Any other board director reports? Or any other comments or things you guys want to recognize or discuss? I'm seeing heads shaking. Okay, so we have no committee or community or school presentations at this point. We are on to comments from the public, and just a reminder that we, as we are doing our online board meetings, we are accepting public comments up until noon on the day of our meetings so that we can get that information out, and then we are continuing to read those aloud at our meetings on behalf of the participants who have sent those in. So I believe Vice Chair Thompson will go ahead and read what we have for today. We have two, is that correct? Two? Okay. And I don't think we can hear you, so we'll let you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Public comment number one, Lily Yoder, 1000 Southwest 14th Avenue in Albany, Oregon. My name is Lily Yoder. I am 10 years old and will be in the 5th grade. The other day, I was walking to the track with my brothers. We noticed that the construction trucks at West Albany had Trump flags on 2 vehicles. I understand that people can have them on their private property, but it doesn't seem right to have political things like that on city property. My mom has told me how bad it got in schools during the 2016 election, and I don't think this will help. It might make things worse and might make people uncomfortable. Thank you for listening.
Director
And-
Thompson, just real quick, I think people are having a little bit of a hard time hearing, so I don't know if you can increase your volume, or I'm not.
Yeah. Hang on. Hang on a second. Okay. I cut down the background noise in my little area here. Are you ready for number two? Public comment number two. Amber Bosshart, 3015 Northwest Wildwood Drive, Albany, Oregon. Some parents and I were chatting last week about the inconvenience of early release Wednesdays. I was wondering if the school board has ever discussed a 4-day school week like the Central Lynn School District has done for years. The Central Lynn community seems to love it. Wednesdays have always seemed silly being in the middle of the week, which breaks up routine. I know there have been reasons for it in the past that are centered around teacher attendance at their afternoon meetings, but now might be a good time to reevaluate that midweek inconvenience for families. As we begin this crazy new school year and trying to create a new normal for families and educators, there is a huge benefit for swapping Wednesdays off to Fridays or Mondays off. This change would be much more convenient for the parents already trying to juggle childcare and work schedules. Let parents have a day that coincides with a weekend to take their kids to work if allowed, have an extra day for camping, starting an outside-inside project that may go through the weekend. Kids may go to grandma's for a long weekend, etc., without worrying about bringing their Chromebooks, having Wi-Fi, and virtual learning. I just see so many more benefits for families if you would consider moving that day off, or optional day, or catch-up day. I'm not sure what it's called. I read teachers will be recording their lessons in case a student misses it, but I also know checking in regularly, routine, and synchronous learning is important to the district. I understand the school calendar is already set for 2020, but since this is a new for everyone, why not consider the change before the school year starts? I feel setting everyone up in the beginning with an easy fix and a schedule not disrupted with a midweek break may be more beneficial and eliminate unnecessary stress from families. I understand that might change when in-person learning starts due to cleaning schedules, but for now, please consider Monday through Thursday being the meat and potatoes of learning. Thank you for considering the suggestion. If you need to hear from more parents, I can ask that they reach out to the school board as well, but don't want to bombard you if that's not helpful. Thanks again, Amber. That's all I have.
Thank you for reading those. And as always, we will take those comments and look into things and discuss appropriately. So we appreciate getting those. Thank you. That moves us into our consent agenda items. We had the personnel in our packets. We had our minutes and our monthly financial report. There is a note that our minutes had an adjustment, I believe, that was sent out by Chris this afternoon. Are there any additional questions? Oh, yes, Director Aganaga.
No, I just have to compliment the school. I'm very excited to see on the consent agenda the hiring of another registered nurse and the hiring of a counselor at Timber Ridge. So I applaud. Very good. That's awesome work.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so our consent agenda items are approved, and we move into our old business. The first is our LBL 2019-21 Local Service Plan Resolution Amendment. And Superintendent Goff, did you have any additional comments on this one today?
It stands as you viewed it at our last meeting.
Did any of our directors have any additional questions or concerns with that agreement? Okay, so we will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the LBL 2019-2021 Local Service Plan Resolution Amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the, oh my goodness, I just lost my, well, we will wing this because I have lost my item. I apologize. So the motion is to approve the LBL 2019-21 Local Service Plan Resolution Amendment as provided. Director Eastman.
Aye.
Director Aganaga.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Thompson.
Aye.
I also vote aye, and Director Ward is absent for the evening, so that one is approved. Our second one is the 2020-2021 school calendar. And Director Larry, did you have any additional comments or input on this one?
Chair Butzner and members of the board, just a couple of quick things. One is that, you hear pretty much everywhere you turn these days that things are changing fast. And when the board made the decision to delay the opening of school in an effort to give our staff more time for professional development and training and to move more smoothly into this new world, we pretty quickly realized that the calendar, as a result of that, became fairly unbalanced. There are a lot of factors that always go in and a lot of trade-offs that always go into establishing a calendar. And I would like to state right off that things like the winter break, spring break, the end of school, et cetera, have not changed on this version of the calendar. But since the high schools in particular will be going to sort of a quarter-based system and awarding credits on quarters, we knew that we needed to balance the length of those quarters out, at least as best we could. When we took a look at that, then the placement of conferences, parent-teacher conferences, became extremely inconvenient, as did some of the staff development grading days affiliated with those conferences. And so the net effect of this version of the calendar is to bring the school year into quarters, to put a grading period at the end of each of those quarters for teachers to be able to prepare information, whether that's end of a quarter-long semester at the high school or whether that's just a grading period at the other schools, and to remove the parent-teacher conferences from the calendar directly, because we believe that we can provide feedback and information to parents in other ways. And since we had lost instructional days at the beginning of the year, this was a way to recoup a couple of those along the way. And so we're asking that this calendar be approved. And again, it doesn't change the basic skeleton of the calendar that was approved earlier by the board.
Did we have any additional comments or questions from directors? I will just look for a show of hands or seeing none. All right. So we will entertain a motion on this issue as well.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021 year calendar as presented in our board packet.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to approve the updated calendar for the school year 2020 to 2021 as provided in our board packet. Director Eastman. That was an I believe. I didn't quite hear it, so I just wanted to verify. Okay. Director Aganaga.
Aye.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Aye.
I also vote aye, and again, Director Ward is absent, so we are approved. We have no reports, no bond business or new business. So we are on to other business, which was, I'm not sure who's taking this, Superintendent Goff or Assistant Superintendent Harlan, the reopening blueprints.
Yeah, so Chair Butzner and members of the board, we spoke about this earlier, just to refer in the packet to pages 99 to 102 are just specific information about the requirements that we have in terms of aligned platforms, technology for comprehensive distance learning. And so that's just specific information to those requirements of the blueprint that you'll find for your, just for your review.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda. I can't believe it's only 7:50. I know, right? So we have, I'll point everyone to the dates of interest for the upcoming months. We have pre-planning at 8 a.m. on the 21st, and then our graduation ceremonies next week. And then that puts us into September for start of school and our first regular board meeting on September 14th, which is crazy. But that's where we are at. And then we will add we'll have Chris add our work session, our meeting to the October timeline. So we will have the October 19th date set aside as well. So with that, we will adjourn our meeting at 7:50 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good night.